The stars had always called to humanity. For 300 years they answered that call. They built ships. They found new worlds. They made homes among the cold darkness of space. By the year 2347, humans lived on 17 different star systems. They called themselves the United Earth Coalition, and they believed they had earned their place among the stars. They were wrong. At least, that is what the older species thought. Doctor stood in the center of the diplomatic chamber on Horizon's edge, a space station floating above a neutral world. He was a thin man with tired eyes and gray hair. He had spent 40 years studying alien species. He had learned their languages. He had learned their customs, but he had never learned to accept their arrogance. Across from him stood High Overseer of the Dominion. There were tall beings with pale blue skin and 4 arms. They had ruled their empire for 4,000 years. They had conquered dozens of species. They looked at humans the way humans might look at insects. "You do not seem to understand," said. His voice was cold and smooth. "We are not asking for permission. We are informing you of what will happen." Kept his face calm. "The colony on 4 has been established for 60 years. 2 million humans live there. It is our world." Made a sound that might have been laughter. "Your world. You have been in space for 3 centuries. We have been here for. You do not own anything. You exist because we allow it." Behind, Lieutenant Shin sat at a communication console. She was young, barely 30 years old. Her job was to monitor transmissions during diplomatic meetings. An hour ago, she had intercepted something that made her blood run cold. They had not come to negotiate. They had already decided to take 4. This meeting was just a show. She had passed the information, too. He had read it without changing his expression. Now he faced knowing the truth. "High Overseer," said slowly, "I must warn you. Humanity will not accept this. We will defend our people." Leaned forward, all 4 of his arms spread wide in a gesture of contempt. "Defend? With what? Your tiny fleet. Your primitive weapons. We have destroyed species far greater than yours. You are children playing in a garden that belongs to adults." In the shadows of the chamber, an old named elder watched quietly. He had lived for over 800 years. He had seen many species rise and fall. Something about these humans troubled him. When spoke of defense, there was no fear in his eyes. There was something else, something that looked like a promise. "Let me be clear," continued. "You have 30 cycles to remove your people from 4. If you do not, we will remove them ourselves. This is not a negotiation. This is a notification." Nodded slowly. "I understand. And let me be equally clear, High Overseer. If your ships enter our space with hostile intent, you will regret it." Stared at him for a long moment. Then he laughed. It was a cruel sound that echoed through the chamber. "Regret? We have never known regret. We have only known victory." He turned and walked away, his advisors following behind him. Elder remained for a moment. He looked at with something like curiosity. "Your species is brave," he said quietly, "but bravery alone does not win wars." Met his gaze. "We are not just brave, Elder. We are human, and there is nothing more dangerous than a human protecting their home." Said nothing. He simply turned and followed his people out. 3 days later, the message reached Earth. Admiral read it in his office at Fleet Command. He was 62 years old with a face like carved stone. He had fought in 2 wars and lost his wife to a pirate attack 15 years ago. He had no children. The people of Earth were his family now. General Minu sat across from him. "They gave us 30 days. What do you want to do?" Set down the report. "How many people are on 4? 2.3 million, mostly families, farmers, workers. Children? Over 400,000. Closed his eyes for a moment. When he opened them, they were hard as iron. "Contact every fleet commander. I want full mobilization within 72 hours. Minu leaned forward. "They have never lost a war. Their fleet is 3 times our size." "I know." If we fight them, we might lose everything. Stood and walked to his window. Outside, the lights of Seoul glittered in the night. Somewhere down there, families were eating dinner. Children were doing homework. People were living their lives, unaware of what was coming. Send a message to the, he said. Tell them this. The line is drawn at 4. Cross it, and they will learn what humanity does to those who threaten our children. 1 week later, the fleet entered the system. 50 warships, each one larger than anything humanity had ever built. Commander stood on the bridge of his flagship, looking at the small blue world below. Begin the operation, he ordered. They will surrender within hours. He was wrong. The humans did not surrender. They did not run. They simply looked up at the sky and waited. The line had been drawn, and they were about to cross it. Governor Ryu stood on the balcony of her office in city. She was 54 years old with short black hair and steady hands. She had governed for 12 years. She had built schools and hospitals. She had watched children grow up and start families of their own. This world was not just a colony to her. It was home. Above her, the sky was wrong. Dark shapes moved among the clouds. Warships, 50 of them, hanging in the air like a promise of death. Her assistant rushed in. Governor, they are demanding our surrender. They want you to broadcast a message telling everyone to leave. Did not turn around. How long until the Earth fleet arrives? 8 days, maybe 7 if they push their engines. 8 days, they would not wait that long. She knew what she had to do. Open a channel, she said. Broadcast to the entire planet and to the fleet. What should I say? Finally turned, her eyes were calm. Say this, we are not leaving, you were warned. The message went out across the planet. In farms and cities, in schools and factories, people heard their governor's voice. Some were afraid. Many were angry, but not one of them tried to run. They were human. This was their home, and they would not abandon it. Commander received the message on his bridge. He stood perfectly still, his 4 arms folded behind his back. He had conquered 11 worlds. He had never received such a response. They refused to leave, his second officer said. Should we begin the ground invasion? Thought for a moment. These humans were foolish, but perhaps they simply did not understand what they faced. No, first, a demonstration. Target the mountain range north of their main city. Destroy it. Show them what our weapons can do. The order was given. Beams of blue light shot down from the ships. The mountains exploded. Rock and fire filled the sky. The sound was heard across the entire continent. And still, the humans did not run. Felt something he had not felt in a very long time. Confusion. His psychological tactics always worked. Other species always broke when they saw power. But these humans just stood there, looking up at the sky with hard eyes. On the elder requested an audience with High Overseer. He brought old records, ancient files about species that had fought back against conquerors. There is a pattern, said. Some species burn quietly, they accept their fate, but others, when you touch them, they explode. They do not care about survival, they only care about making you pay. Waved a hand dismissively. You worry too much, elder, the humans are nothing. They lost people in that mountain strike. There were mining outposts there, and still they did not surrender. Does that not concern you? It concerns me that they are stupid. Nothing more. Will break them. He always does. Left the chamber feeling cold. He had seen that look in his eyes before. The pride, the certainty. He had seen it in leaders just before their empires fell. Back on 4, Commander sent his final warning. Surrender within 6 hours or we will bombard city. Your outer districts will be destroyed. Thousands will die. This is your last chance. Governor read the message. She looked out her window at the city below. Families were gathering in shelters. Parents were holding their children. Everyone knew what was coming. She could save them. All she had to do was surrender, give up their world, let them take everything they had built. She thought about her grandmother, who had been one of the first settlers on this world. She thought about the children who had been born here, who had never known any other home. She thought about what it meant to be human. She sent her response, "We will not surrender, do what you will. History will remember what you are." 6 hours later, the sky turned to fire. Weapons rained down on the outer districts of city. Buildings collapsed. Streets melted. People who could not reach the shelters in time simply ceased to exist. The bombardment lasted only 15 minutes. When it was over, 12,000 humans were dead. The news reached Earth within hours. Admiral received the report in the middle of the night. He read it once, then again, then a third time. 12,000 dead. 4,000 of them were children. General Menu stood beside him. "Sir, what are your orders?" His face did not change. His voice did not shake, but something in his eyes had gone very cold, very still, like the moment before a storm. "How many ships do we have ready?" 800, the 1st through 5th fleets. "Launch all of them. Tell Captain Park to begin Operation Silent Fury, and send a message to Commander." "What message?" He walked to the window and looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, 12,000 of his people lay dead in the ruins of their homes. "Tell him this, they crossed the line. Now show them what that means." On 4, the survivors pulled bodies from the rubble. They did not cry. They did not scream. They worked in silence, their faces blank, their hands steady, and in their eyes something burned, something old, something terrible. Commander watched from orbit. He expected fear. He expected surrender. He did not expect what came next. The humans were coming, and they were bringing their fury with them. The sky tore open. Commander stood on his bridge, confident in his victory. The humans had suffered. Soon they would break. It was only a matter of time. Then his sensors screamed warnings. Space itself seemed to split apart as hundreds of ships burst out of, human ships, more than he had ever seen in one place. "How many?" he demanded. His officer's voice shook. 800 warships, Commander. They have surrounded us." Stared at the display. This was impossible. Human ships were supposed to be small, weak, primitive, but these vessels bristled with weapons. They moved in perfect formation. They had caught his fleet in a trap. A communication signal came through. Admiral's face appeared on the screen. He looked calm, too calm, like a man who had already decided how this would end. "You killed 12,000 of our people," said. His voice was quiet, almost gentle. "There will be no negotiation. There will be no mercy. There will only be consequences." The channel closed, and then the humans opened fire. Had fought many battles. He had destroyed fleets and conquered worlds, but he had never experienced anything like this. The humans did not fight like other species. They did not follow the rules of galactic warfare. They did not care about honor or tradition. They fought like animals, like demons, like something that had been pushed too far and no longer cared about survival. Human ships dove into his formation, ignoring their own damage. They rammed vessels. They fired weapons at point-blank range. They sacrificed themselves to create openings for their allies. On the planet below, Captain Park led her strike team through the burning streets of city. She was 38 years old, small and fast, with eyes that missed nothing. Her job was to evacuate civilians while the battle raged above. "Contact left," one of her soldiers shouted. Ground troops appeared from the smoke. They were huge, nearly 3 meters tall, with armor that could stop most weapons. They thought they were superior. They were wrong. His team opened fire. They moved like water flowing around corners and through doorways. They did not stand and fight like proper soldiers. They hit and ran. They set traps. They used the rubble as weapons. One soldier grabbed a young human soldier named. He lifted her off the ground, ready to crush her. Put 3 rounds through his eye sockets. Fell free and kept fighting, blood running down her face. "Fall back to the hospital. ordered. "We hold there until the civilians are out." They reached the hospital as night fell. Inside were 300 patients, including 100 children. They surrounded the building. "Surrender," their commander broadcast. "You cannot win." Looked at her team. They were exhausted, wounded, outnumbered. She looked at the children huddled in the basement, crying for their parents. "We hold," she said simply. "Until the last one of us falls, we hold." They held for 11 hours. Waves of attack. Steam threw them back again and again. When they ran out of ammunition, they used knives. When their knives broke, they used their hands. By dawn, 60% of team was dead or wounded, but not a single patient had been harmed. In orbit, the battle reached its peak. Lieutenant Lee flew his fighter through a storm of enemy fire. His ship was damaged. His weapons were nearly empty. But he saw something, a command ship, its engines exposed. "Command, this is," he transmitted. "I have a shot, but I won't be coming back." Admiral's voice came through. "Are you sure?" Thought about his daughter back on Earth. He thought about the 12,000 dead on 4. He thought about what it meant to be human. "I'm sure. Tell my daughter I love her. Tell her I did what was right." He aimed his ship at the command vessel's engines. He closed his eyes, and he flew straight into them. The explosion ripped through the ship. It spun out of control, crashing into 2 other vessels. Commander watched in horror as his fleet crumbled around him. "This is impossible," he whispered. "They are just humans." On Earth, Doctor had been working through the night. He had intercepted communications and translated them. Now he broadcast them across the galaxy. They had planned to enslave the colonists. They had planned to use human children as laborers in their mines. They had laughed about it, called humans useful animals. Species across the galaxy heard the broadcasts. Many of them had been conquered by many of them had suffered under their rule. Now they saw for what they truly were. As the sun rose over 4, Commander gave the order no commander had ever given in 4,000 years. "All ships, surrender, we surrender." The guns fell silent. Human soldiers moved through the wreckage, pulling survivors from burning ships. They treated wounded soldiers alongside their own wounded. They did not torture. They did not execute. But they did not forget. Admiral looked at the victory reports. His fleet had won, but 12,000 civilians were still dead, would never see his daughter again. Hundreds of soldiers had given their lives. They had crossed the line. Humanity had made them pay, but this was not over, not yet. The ones who gave the orders were still alive, still safe on there. That would have to change. The galaxy watched. On every planet with a screen, beings of 100 different species saw the same thing. Humans putting commanders on trial. For the first time in 4,000 years, they answered for their crimes. Commander stood before the court. His 4 arms were bound. His proud face was hollow. Around him, humans sat in judgment. Families of the dead watched from the gallery. "You ordered the bombardment of city," the prosecutor said. 12,000 civilians died. 4,000 of them were children. What do you have to say? Said nothing. What could he say? He had followed orders. He had done what always did to lesser species. He had never imagined there would be consequences. The verdict was guilty. The sentence was life in prison. As guards led him away, looked at the humans watching him, he expected hate. He expected rage. Instead, he saw something worse. He saw determination, a quiet promise that this was not over. On the High Overseer watched the trial on his private screen. He was not worried. His fleet had lost, yes, but he was safe. The humans could not reach him here. His empire still had thousands of ships, millions of soldiers. They would rebuild. They would have their revenge. Elder entered his chamber. "High Overseer, the humans demand your surrender." Laughed. "My surrender? They won one battle against a single fleet. Do they think that makes them powerful? They destroyed 50 of our best ships. They captured our commanders. They broadcast our secrets to the galaxy. Other species are turning against us. Let them turn. We will crush them all eventually. Stepped closer. I have studied the humans, High Overseer. I found old records, ancient warnings about species like them. I do not need warnings about primitives. They are not primitives. His voice rose. They fought us with weapons we did not know they had. They sacrificed themselves without hesitation. They showed mercy to our wounded soldiers, even after what we did to their children. These are not the actions of animals. These are the actions of a species that knows exactly what it is doing. Turned away. You are dismissed, elder. Stood there for a long moment. Then he spoke quietly. The humans have a saying, when you strike at a king, you must kill him. We struck at them. We did not kill them. Now they will strike back, and I fear what that will look like. He left, stared out his window at the great city below. He was High Overseer of the Dominion. He had ruled for 200 years. He would not be threatened by insects. On Earth, Admiral called a secret meeting. Only 5 people attended. General Menu, Dr. Captain Park, and 2 others who never gave their names. The leadership must answer, said. Gave the order. He watched our children die and laughed. He is still laughing. We cannot invade there, Menu said. Not yet. Our fleet needs time to rebuild. We do not need to invade. Looked at, we need to send a message. Understood immediately. How many people? 12, your best. You go in quiet, deliver the message, and get out. What message? Pulled up a hologram. It showed a small device. This is an antimatter warhead, enough to destroy a city. You will plant it in personal chambers, not to use it, just to show him we can. Smiled. It was not a nice smile. Operation Final Word. Yes, can you do it? Admiral, I held a hospital against 200 for 11 hours. I can handle 1 fat overseer. The meeting ended, but Menu stayed behind. There is something else you should know, he said. The Prometheus Protocol. Nodded. Show me. Menu activated a display. It showed maps of human space. Hidden among asteroids and moons and empty sectors were hundreds of weapons platforms. Each one carried enough firepower to destroy a fleet. We have been building these for 60 years, Menu said. In secret. Even most of our own people do not know. They think they have seen our full strength. They have seen maybe 20%. Looked at the display. 60 years of preparation. 60 years of hiding their true power, waiting for the day someone would push them too far. If we activate these, they will know we could have destroyed them at any time. Yes. Good, let them know. Let everyone know. 2 weeks later, Captain's ship entered space. It was small and fast, designed for stealth. 12 soldiers sat in silence as they approached the. Each one had volunteered. Each one knew they might not return. Reviewed the mission one last time. Infiltrate the capital. Reach the Imperial Palace. Plant the warhead. Extract without being detected. Simple, except nothing was ever simple. We are entering atmosphere, the pilot reported. Stood, she checked her weapons. She thought about the children who had died in city. She thought about flying his ship into the enemy. She thought about what it meant to be human. Everyone ready? 11 voices answered, ready. The ship dropped through the clouds toward the alien city below. Somewhere in that city, High Overseer slept peacefully, certain that he was safe. He was about to learn how wrong he was. High Overseer woke to the feeling of cold metal against his throat. He opened his eyes. A human woman stood over him, a knife in her hand. Behind her, shadows moved, more humans, in his private chambers, in the heart of his empire. Do not scream, Captain Park said quietly. Do not move, just listen. His heart pounded. This was impossible. His palace had thousands of guards. His security systems were the best in the galaxy. How had these humans gotten through? What do you want? He whispered. Smiled, she reached into her pocket and pulled out a small device, a detonator. She placed it on his chest. "Do you know what this is?" she asked. Looked at it, his face went pale. "An antimatter trigger." "Very good. The warhead is under your bed. If I press this button, you and everything within 2 kilometers will cease to exist." Began to shake. "What do you want? Resources, territory, name your price." "We do not want your resources. We do not want your territory." Leaned closer. Her eyes were dark and cold. "We want you to understand something." She pulled out a small display and activated it. Images appeared in the air. The Prometheus Protocol. Hundreds of weapons platforms across human space, all of them now active. All of them pointed at military installations. "Right now," said, "every major military base in your empire is targeted. Your shipyards, your training facilities, your weapons factories. If Admiral gives the order, they will all be destroyed within 1 hour. Your empire will be crippled. You will never recover." Stared at the images. So many platforms, so much power, hidden for decades, waiting. "You could have used these against us from the beginning," he said slowly. "Why did you not?" "Because we are not conquerors. We do not attack first. We build, we create. We raise our children and live our lives. We only become dangerous when someone threatens what we love." His voice hardened. "You threatened what we love, you killed our children, and now you see what waits on the other side of that choice." She picked up the detonator and held it in front of his face. "I could press this button right now. My people would call it justice. 12,000 lives for one. It would be fair." Closed his eyes. He waited for death. Nothing happened. He opened his eyes, was putting the detonator back in her pocket. "But we are not going to kill you," she said. "We are going to let you live. We are going to let you go back to your throne and look at your empire and know, every single day, that you only exist because we allowed it." She pulled out the warhead from under his bed. She disarmed it and placed it on his pillow. "Keep this. Put it somewhere you will see it every morning. Let it remind you of this moment. Let it remind you that the humans could have ended you but chose not to. And remember this, if you ever threaten our people again, we will not choose mercy. We will choose extinction. Yours." She turned and walked to the window. Her team gathered around her. "How did you get in?" asked, his voice weak. Looked back at him. "We are human, we find a way, we always find a way." They disappeared into the night. Sat alone in his chambers, holding the disarmed warhead, shaking with a fear he had never known. 3 days later, the Dominion requested peace talks. The treaty was signed 1 month later. They paid full reparations to the families of the dead. They publicly acknowledged their crimes. They from all disputed territories. And High Overseer stepped down from power, unable to face his people after his humiliation. Elder became the new High Overseer. His first act was to send a personal message to Admiral. It said simply, "You were right, we should have listened." The Galactic Council invited humanity to take a permanent seat. Species that had ignored humans for centuries now looked at them with new eyes, not with fear, with respect. Admiral delivered the acceptance speech. He stood before representatives of 100 worlds, his gray uniform simple and undecorated. "We came to the stars hopping for friendship," he said. "We found that some would test us. Some believed our kindness was weakness. Let this be our message to the galaxy." He paused. The chamber was silent. "Humanity does not seek war. We build, we create, we protect. But threaten our homes, harm our children, and you will discover that the same hands that build worlds can tear them apart. We draw our lines not in sand but in fire. Cross them at your peril." He stepped back. The chamber erupted in applause. On 4, they built a memorial. 12,000 names carved in white stone, arranged in a great circle around a garden. At the center stood a statue of a human woman holding a child, looking up at the stars. Captain Park stood at the edge of the garden. Governor Ryu stood beside her. They watched children playing among the flowers, laughing and running, unaware of what had been sacrificed for their freedom. "Do you think they will remember?" asked. Watched a little girl chase a butterfly across the grass. "They will remember. We all will." Doctor wrote the final entry in his log that night. "The galaxy asked what kind of species we are. I believe we finally answered. We are human. We are kind until kindness is met with cruelty. We are patient until patience invites destruction. And when the line is crossed, when our people bleed, we become something ancient and terrible, not conquerors, not monsters, just a species that will burn down the universe itself before we let anyone take our children from us." The line was drawn. They crossed it. And now the galaxy knows what waits on the other side. Above 4 human ships patrolled peacefully. The stars shone cold and bright, and somewhere among them 100 species looked at that small blue world and remembered the lesson they had learned. Do not threaten humanity. Do not harm their children. Do not cross the line. Because if you do, you will face their fury. And fury, once unleashed, does not stop until the debt is paid.